Hello my dear students, I'm Dr. Vaishaly Bharambe. I've been teaching anatomy for the last 25 years and I love it. This lecture is a part of my histology lecture series. To be precise, it's about epithelium. So this is the third lecture in the lecture series on epithelium. This is specifically about glands. It's an introduction to glands. So what is epithelium? Epithelium is a collection of cells in close opposition to each other, forming a coherent layer, covering external surface or lining internal surface. This is what we understand as epithelium. So it performs the following functions. I'm not going to even bother to put this on. P-A-S-T-E-R, pastor, mnemonic. P for protection, A for absorption, S for secretion, T for transport, E for excretion and R for reception. These are the functions, out of which I want us to concentrate on the secretion function today because that is what glands do. Okay, so question is, why is glands a part of lecture on epithelium? Epithelium covers the body. Glands don't do that. So why is glands here? I'll tell you why it is here. Now look at this carefully. This is epithelium. With time, what happens is epithelium begins to dip downwards into the underlying mesoderm. Dip some more and finally this reorganizes itself to form something that is looking like a gland, a lower portion of which is secretory and the superficial portion of which is the duct. This is how glands are produced. This is how sweat glands are produced. This is how mammary glands are produced. This is how sebaceous glands are produced. That's how epithelium leads to formation of glands. This can be inside the body also. Similarly, you have gastric glands. You have even the pancreas gland. This is how they are developed. That is why glands come under the topic of epithelium. Right. So, epithelium cells have a secretory function. This function can be done as a single cell or as in a group. When it is done as a single cell, you call it a unicellular gland. Can you tell me a name of a unicellular gland? Obviously, goblet cell. And multicellular glands, when many cells modify themselves to form a gland, you call it a multicellular gland. Right. So let's discuss first the unicellular gland. Here on the screen, you are seeing this gland, which is somewhat columnar cell, the top portion of which is covered with mucinogen granules, granules which contain mucinogen. What happens is, when you are staining this, these mucinogen granules are lost and what remains is a cell which contains the top portion removed. Therefore, it looks like a goblet cell that is shown here. Hence, this gland is called as a goblet cell. So this, because it looks like a goblet, okay, compare to understand. What about multicellular glands? Multicellular glands are of two types. Those which have ducts called exocrine, those which have no ducts called endocrine. I'm sure this was taught you in your school years. It is not like I'm introducing the concept. Each gland, an exocrine gland, consists of two parts. A ductal portion and a secretory portion. This lower portion is secretory, this top portion is the ductal portion. Based on this, you're going to classify your exocrine gland on number of ducts and shape of secretory unit. Take a look to understand. Now here you're seeing two glands, right? This one has got a single duct, hence it is called simple gland. This one has got a single duct, but many ducts open into it. This is called as a compound gland. So simple gland, one duct, compound gland, many ducts opening into single duct. Okay. So on the basis of ductal pattern, you have got simple and compound glands. Now let's talk about the secretory unit. This portion here and this portion here. If the secretory unit is shaped like a tube, you call it tubular gland. If it is shaped like a sac, you call it acinar or alveolar gland. So simple, single duct, compound, multiple ducts opening into a single duct. Tube-like secretory element, tubular. Sac-like secretory element, acinar or alveolar. Clear in your mind? Now let's combine these together to create many more types of glands. For example, you got, of course, unicellular is a single, simple tubular, simple coiled tubular, simple alveolar, and so on. The list is endless. Okay? What I'm going to do is show you images to remember. See if you can identify. This is a sac-like secretory unit and a single duct. So will it be simple? Yes. And of what type? Alveolar. Simple alveolar gland. Here you are seeing a single duct. So simple. But you are seeing branched alveoli. So you call it simple branched alveolar. Are you getting this? Let's try one more. Tube-like secretory element, single duct, simple tubular. Tube-like secretory element, coiled, and a single duct, simple coiled tubular. Here the secretory element is branched, but the duct is single. So simple branched tubular. Have you understood all this? Yes? Okay, good. So when the duct is single, go for simple. Now go to the secretory element to understand what type of simple gland it is. Simple alveolar, simple tubular, simple coiled tubular, simple branch tubular, and so on. Now if you're liking this lecture, students, do like and subscribe to my channel. It will encourage me to make more of such lectures for you. Right. Now here you are seeing something different. I can see a duct here and I can see multiple ducts here. So it is compound. Accepted? Yes. What is the secretory element like? Sac-like. So what should I call this? Compound alveolar. Very simple. One more. I can see that there is branching of the ductal element here. Further branching of the ductal element. So I call this compound branched alveolar. Here, look carefully, students. You can see that a part of the ductal element is also secretory. So there is a tube-like secretory element and there is a sac-like secretory element. There is a tube-like secretory element and there is a sac-like secretory element. So you call it compound tubulo-alveolar. Unless you revise this repeatedly, this will just, after a point of time, become difficult for you to remember. Now you are seeing branching of the tubular element. So you call it compound tubular, which can also call it branch tubular. Right. So you saw that on the basis of number of ducts and the shape of the secretory element, you had a classification. Classification of gland can also be dependent upon the type of material it is secreting. If it is secreting mucus, you call it mucous gland. If it is secreting watery secretion, you call it serous gland. So here you are seeing a mucous gland. As you can see, the cells are columnar. The apical region looks kind of empty because it contains mucinogen granules. The nucleus is flattened, basally placed because the cell is packed with mucus. And the secretion is thick mucoid. The cells are very light staining. Compare this with the serous gland. The cells are large and pyramidal shaped. They are darker staining. Apical region stains dark because of presence of zymogen granules, as you can see here. The nucleus is rounded, somewhat basally placed, but it is not flattened like it is in mucous glands. Okay, it is secreting clear watery secretion. This comparison is something you should know very well. It is asked repeatedly in exams. Columnar cells, pyramidal cells. Flattened nucleus, rounded nucleus. Apical region, mucinogen granules. Apical region, zymogen granules. Light staining, dark staining. Large lumen, small lumen. Just go on. You will find yourself learning this very easily. Keep the image in your mind. Right. So these are the granules you should be noting. Finally, the glands, exocrine glands, can also be classified based on how it secretes. Merocrine, apocrine, holocrine. Fancy words, we don't understand anything about it. Let's take a look. Okay, so here you are seeing how there are secretory vesicles in the gland. This is the duct, this is the gland. Secretory vesicles are just coming to the surface of the cell and releasing just the secretion. Mere secretion, merocrine, mere secretion is released. Okay, so this is typically seen in salivary glands, pancreas, and so on. When the cell secretes only the secretion, it's called as merocrine secretion. To understand this, we go to the next slide. Here you are seeing again duct and secretory element, but every time secretory element is secreting, it is losing a part of the apical region of the cell. Secretion is released into the lumen along with apical region of the cell. So a bit of the cell itself is lost. This is therefore called apocrine secretion. For example, modified sweat glands and the mammary gland, when secretion of lipid in mammary gland is by this method. Okay. Third type is when the cell itself is lost in secretion. The cell disintegrates in an effort to secrete. You can see here, this cell is completely disintegrating while releasing its secretion into the lumen. This is called as holocrine. Whole cell is lost. Holocrine. Example, sebaceous gland. Let's do this once more. Mere secretion. Mere, nothing is lost except the secretion. Merocrine. Apex is lost while secreting. Apocrine. Whole cell is lost while secreting. Holocrine. Examples you have to remember. So this is based on method of secretion. Say it once more. Mere secretion, merocrine. Apex lost, apocrine. Whole cell lost, holocrine. Right. So, some terms you should know. What is parenchyma? What is stroma? Parenchyma is the secretory element of the cell. Stroma is the connective tissue supporting the gland. Secretory element of a gland is called parenchyma. Supporting connective tissue is called stroma. Finally, we come to endocrine glands. Till now, we were discussing glands with ducts. How do glands without ducts secrete? They release their secretion directly into blood. Take a look. These are the secretory cells. You can see them releasing their secretion directly into the blood vessel. This is called as an endocrine gland. Our body is full of them. Okay. So, summarize. Glands can be unicellular, for example, goblet cells. They can be multicellular. Multicellular are divided into exocrine and endocrine. Exocrine have ducts. They can be classified on the basis of number of ducts as simple and compound. On the basis of secretory portion into tubular and alveolar. Based on secretion, we have mucous and serous glands. Based on mode of secretion, you have merocrine, apocrine and holocrine. And finally, know a little bit about endocrine. This completes my lecture on glands. If you like this lecture, do like and subscribe to my channel. Share your thoughts in the comment section. I would love to know if this lecture has really helped you to understand glands, which is quite a challenge for many undergraduate students. There are two related lectures I would like you to watch. One is Simple Epithelium, Epithelium Part 1, Stratified Epithelium, Epithelium Part 2. The links for these are given in the description section. Thank you, students. I hope you enjoyed this lecture as much as I did. Okay, see you across the screen in some other video. Bye.